Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Breckles with Castlebreck. Graham?
Graham Akers, Bright Tech Systems in Vancouver, and Heiko.
Heiko Voigt from Harbor Light in Halifax. Colin, back to you.
All right. So today, Heiko's got a presentation for us. It's an interesting prototype that his organization built for a customer. It actually prioritizes professional and individual emails flowing to a work mailbox, and it's using some interesting technologies. It's using some Alexa skills and some AI to analyze and prioritize mail from different channels flowing into this personal mailbox. And let's get right at it. Over to you, Heiko.
Okay, thank you, guys. I'll share my screen so we can see what we've built. And unfortunately, before we go into the demo, I'll have to nag you a little bit with the presentation on top of that. So that's the official title, like Conquer the Email Overload. Just a couple of things about me. As I said before, I'm the founder of Harbor Light Software Development in Halifax. I'm working as a project manager and a lead architect in that company. I'm a long time Nodes developer since version 2, so I'm an old fart in that area. My professional things that I do today in development is mostly full stack web development with React and Angular, Node.js and stuff like that. And we also do a lot of web content management, component development in the Adobe area. So not only Nodes and Domino, not only IBM, a little bit more than that. Okay, so what are we talking today? First, I want to just set a little bit of the context. Who's the customer? What use cases did they come up with, and what they asked us to do? Then we're going to take a quick look at the solution details, technical stuff behind the scenes, and as promised, we'll see a little bit of the demo of how this system interacts. So, how did we get this? The customer is one of our largest Canadian customers. It's an insurance company in Canada. This episode that I wrote down here has actually happened exactly that same way. We were sitting down in a meeting room. I was talking about what's in AI and stuff like that. We were lucky to have the CEO of the company in the room and a couple of other CXOs of the company. And after talking about for 20 minutes or so, the CEO just interrupted the conversation and said, "Guys, it's all fine that you come up with all this AI crap. I really enjoyed the discussion with you guys, but I have a very stupid problem for me. I got a ton of email flowing into my desk today, every day and every morning, and I can't really keep hold of what's really important to me. Can you help me to sort out that stuff for me automatically and give me the stuff that I really need to work on when I need to work on? And also, I don't want to use my mobile phone for that, because when I'm sitting in my car, I have access to Alexa and stuff like that. I want to have it as a voice control. Can you do that for me?" He was looking at his CIO, and the CIO was saying, "Well, no, I don't think so. Not right now." He looked at me and I said, "Well, yeah, we can try. Let's give me some time and we'll figure something out, right? What else would a consultant do in that specific situation?" And he said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. I give you 60 days and you show me a working prototype. If I like it, I'll pay you. If not, well, you screwed. Is that a deal?" And I said, "Okay." So if I only knew better at that time. But anyways, so that's how things start sometimes, right? And you have to really figure them out as they go. So, but anyways, that's how the project actually got rolling. And if you look at this, so what was the actual idea that we had to come up with? So we have, in this chart you see on the right side, a lot of input channels that you have in your personal communications, right? You got Office 365, you got Verse, you got Gmail, you got LinkedIn, Facebook stuff. All that stuff fills up your daily bucket list. And the big question is always, how do I find the diamonds in the rough? Did something relevant happen today? Is something important is there an important appointment, an important meeting that I have to react on? Is everything okay at home, right? This is also like a big concern for us professionals, that it's not only work happening, but it's also like your private life that sometimes gets important. And most of the time, this is the really important stuff. So our basic stupid idea was, okay, let's try and throw Watson AI on it and see what the outcome will be, and hopefully it will magically find everything that's important and then the things that we need. Well, of course, it wasn't that easy, and we got a couple of things that we had to keep in mind. That the CEO was really giving us as a kind of a scope for this prototype. And he said, "Okay, I want to have I want to see my most important messages, and I want to do this via voice control, right? I want to sit at my breakfast table and let Alexa read my emails to me that are the most important ones. Or in my car, as I have Alexa services also in my car, so I can use that one here. I have to have a web interface, but this is minor priority. I don't need a mobile app. That we can do that later. But I have to have some interaction in place so I can ask the system right away, why is this important that what you are sorry about? And the system has to come up with something good, like a good reason for why is a message important right now. And also I need some basic actions so I can work with these messages that I get. I kind of need to be able to accept and decline calendar entries, need to delegate emails, maybe create to-do items or send emails via the voice interface, so like basic interactions so I can work with the data that the system comes up with. And well, we then sat down with the IT department and created a technical chart, like technical chart, right? You throw some boxes on the wall and then you draw a lot of lines around it. But the middle part is the most important part. This is the so-called cognitive mail hub that we came up with. It's a summary of say on-premises and cloud-based APIs that we call. The whole thing is held together by a Node-RED workflow. So Node-RED is the centerpiece of all this that acts to triggers and events that are happening in the system. We have a couple of AI services that Node-RED calls to analyze emails coming from the channels on the right, which is Office 365, versus on-prem, versus on the cloud, and Gmail currently. There's some others that we're looking at, but these are the ones that are currently implemented. And then we got some front-end technologies. We have our own REST facade, a REST API facade in front of it. And we have a web application that's talking to this REST API and also the Alexa skills to talk to our Amazon infrastructure that are talking with here, this REST API to the Mail Hub component itself. So the project name that we came up with internally was In the Fog for this project. And why did we come up with that one? Because well, we realized quickly we had a daunting task ahead, and which means analyzing importance of email is not just something that you do once, right? You do it every time, and there's a lot of variables in there. So importance, for example, what's important? Importance is something that's constantly changing for all of us, right? Things that are important today mightn't be important tomorrow. And other things that mightn't be important today will have to be important tomorrow, right? Also, all of the AI technology that we're currently using in cloud services are per se stateless, which means they don't learn, right? They use models and they give you an idea of things that they know today and how they work today, but they're not really keeping a state of a user or what's important for a user, for example, in that area. So we had to come up with algorithms that fill these gaps between those things. So a couple of thoughts again on relevance, on importance, what's important, right? We came up with an idea of having things that we have to come with a grow, degrade, come and go model that's for importance for us. And we all know that, right? We got customers we're working with. We might work with them for half a year and then we stop working for them. So they degrade in importance for us with whatever they do with all their messages. We got things like projects that are coming up and going. We got topics of interest that we're working on. And then we got things that are consistently important, right? They stay important all the time. Most of the things, and that was one of the things also that the CEO mentioned to us, is family, right? If something happens to your kids, you want to know, no matter what's happening in the rest of your work-life balance, you want to know. And then we got other things that are popping up. These are the black swans, that's what we call them. That's something that you can't really measure, right? They just pop up and they are instantly important, but you can't really gather them by looking at data from the past or analyzing them from the data in the past. So the next big issue that we had was, as I said, the so far existing models that we were able to use from like in AI terms from IBM, Google, or Amazon even. Well, they really only take you so far. They only take you some steps along the way, because you have to come up with a lot more stuff than the AI itself can help you with, right? Training a model for unstructured message data, for example, is something like that. An email per se is not really structured. So figuring out models for that is really a tough job, and it doesn't really help you much in analyzing the task of getting to something that's important. We have language issues. Of course, we're in Canada, right? We get emails in French, we get emails in English, we get emails in Mandarin, even from coming like from the West Coast. And nonetheless, we have these messages mixed up, right? We got an English message to start a conversation, then you have had somebody answering in French, and you have another one replying in English again. Throwing these messages on an AI might be working for some vendors, but not for all. So we had to come up with something like that. So we really had to take baby steps by analyzing the messages coming in and to solve these issues that we were running on. So how did we close all these gaps? Well, first of all, we normalized the data structures. Each and every vendor that you're talking to, if you look at the data structure that IBM gives you in Verse, if you look at the data structures in Office 365 or in Gmail, they're all different, right? Different starts like how do they save time zone values, country codes, things, date time values, simple stuff like that. Email addresses, how do they work with headers, encodings and stuff? It's all different for each and every one of them. So we just normalized these structures in a common JSON data set. So no matter which vendor we're talking to, we always had a consistent data set of things that we're working to. Second thing was, okay, so how do we deal with multiple languages? We didn't, right? We fell back to English, so we translate everything into English first. We lose a little bit in the content, but it's way easier down the road for all the other tools that are in the back to analyze the data itself, to work with a consistent language than having to deal with different languages in the messages themselves. Interestingly enough, we came up with translation services. We tested the translation services from IBM, from Google, and from Amazon. And the best results that we had so far were from Amazon, so we're using an Amazon service for this. And then we came up with something else. A lot of emails that you get contain an immense amount of clutter, things that you don't really care about, right? Like footers and stuff like that are located at the bottom. They don't have anything to do with the content necessarily that's in the email, so it makes no sense to analyze those things. We came up with a combination of the Jupyter Notebook and Watson APIs and built a model on top of that to analyze the email structures, not the content itself, but the structures, and to reduce the clutter from a message to in an ideal world only have to deal with the content of the message, not with all the nice and nifty surroundings of this. Also, we came up with something that say, okay, we need to grasp an idea of what are we talking about in a certain message, right? What are the key values that this message is talking about to really make this accessible? This is done through a Jupyter Notebook text analysis component, and we throw that more or less like you can think about this as throwing the content of the email to this text analysis component. And you're getting more or less like something like a tech cloud back that gives you an impression of what are the topics that we're talking about in this message. And this is something that we rank for relevance later on down the road through the system. The next thing is, what we have to do is we have to extract paragraphs from an email message, and to find things like actions, events, time-related content like patterns that are in there. So we have to do something with the content that this message is delivering. And this is done currently by a couple of APIs from all three vendors, IBM, Amazon, and Google. And we just compare the results that we find in these paragraph by paragraph text analysis. And depending on a middle, like kind of a calculation thing, we just rank our message by importance. And then we have, for the voice-enabled access, there's still stuff in the email that we don't want to read out, right? Because a voice-enabled interface is totally different from just reading it on the screen or on paper. So we just reduce to the max, so to speak. So we reduce all the content on the message to the really important parts and drop things that are more or less just like not really necessary paragraphs. I'll just show that in a minute. And we've done all that. We have a tuple of result values back for each message, and this message, these result values result in a kind of a value or a sum of importance values for a specific message. And all of these extracted things we're saving into a graph database for each user. So there's a message graph or an importance graph for each and every user of the system, and we're saving these things in the graph database to really help us later on to have this notion of importance and relevance. So we can have topics and people, for example. These are the two items that we're saving. So we can have growing importance for specific topics that are ongoing, getting analyzed and ongoing, trickling down the path, and others that are going away might degrade over time as they don't get increased, so they don't get increased from getting triggered through an analysis phase. So that's how we deal with this importance factor that we came up with. So what does that look like for a specific email? This, for example, is a spam email, right? And how do we value these things now? So first of all, we look at things like sender tags and who's the sender? Do we know this guy? No, we don't know him. So this is something that might not be really important, right? We have a non-personalized header, which normally shows you this is something those guys don't know me, so they just refer to like a standard email. And we have a so-called, that's what we call a NATO paragraph. NATO paragraphs are no action talk only, right? This is just like something there's none of the three APIs really got something valuable out of this paragraph. Same goes for the second paragraph, and the closing email, for example, is a different email address than the one it's sending for. So this is all looking like a spam email. So we have a summary of -6 points, which is probably spam. So this is not an important message at all, right? In contrast to that one, we have a well-known sender. It's a personalized email to me. It refers to family members, a specific day in the future, and it contains an action request. And also it's consistent right from email closing and sending and stuff like that. So this might be something that I want to look at because this seems to be an important message, right? So that's basically the model behind all this. Currently, this is what we have built for the customer currently. So we have built intranet components so they can use the system in their intranet. We have a public web client. We have the Alexa skills. And we have currently Office 365 verse on-prem, verse in the cloud, and Gmail connected to it, and all the magic in the middle. So the AI components that I've talked about, this is the high-level chart that we have. So we have, we're using AI services from IBM Watson. We're using services from Google and also from Amazon. And we persist everything that we gain through this graph database and the Neo4j database underneath the whole stack. So that's basically the nucleus of what the system can do. And also we have the Node-RED flow of control that I mentioned. So Node actually reacts and acts on all of these components and keeps the data flow between all of these services and components running and gets triggered whenever a new email, for example, arrives and stuff like that, right? Why did we start with Alexa? As I said, our customer was or is still in the one of the beta users for Amazon in Canada. So they have everything that's new and up and shiny from Amazon, including the car integration and stuff like that. And so this is basically the Alexa skills. They're based on Domino in the backend, REST API in front of it, Nginx as a reverse proxy, and they talk to the MailHub components and the AI services. And we have one thing that's different from a standard Alexa skill that you might be aware of. We have a push notification for a PIN, right? So, as I said, we have the CEO of a insurance company as one of our main customers. You don't want to leave Alexa skills unprotected, right? So if somebody is away or is at home and can open up or just talk to his Alexa skill and say, hey, just read the important emails of this guy. Let me know them, right? Might not be a good idea. So they have to authenticate using a PIN that they tell Alexa before they were able to use the system. So this is something that we came up with. Also, Alexa doesn't only gets everything that our components evaluate. There's nothing that we store on Amazon, or we give Amazon at least only the things that it needs to know. So not as much as they probably would like to have. So where are we today? Well, the CEO received the prototype in April 2018. He was really happy with it, and he did the smoke tests himself. So we were like on the grill for a couple of weeks with him to really get the system working in all notions. Currently, we added Gmail Office 365 Exchange, and for that purpose, where's on-prem and where's in the cloud, as I said, as the backend channels. Currently, the service is used by all of his 35 executives constantly, and is deployed and got deployed now in August and September to 1,500 of his sales reps, and will be deployed to 1,500 more with the rest of the year. And we had the system was really well received, so we had to come up with a waiting list pretty quick for new users because it was like really easy to handle. We did a lot of interviews with the users through this process, and currently we have an accuracy rate about 85 to 90%. So we get a lot of the important messages. We don't get all. The system is still learning and still gaining track, but I think it's a good way to really get the most of what's important out of your daily business. And of course, we're not able to get a black swan. Absolutely, that's not doable with a system like that, as I mentioned already. We're out of the fog right now, but currently the management team is trying to convince us to hook up other channels to the system, mostly messaging channels like Slack and stuff like that, even WhatsApp. And this is a completely different notion, as communication on these channels works completely different than it does in email. So we call this project phase the Fog 2, what else, right? So this will be the next phase. Also, we're looking at things like data analysis from what we gathered, like from various measures. There's also what are the trending topics that people are working with. Similar things that you similarly know from knowledge graphs and IDM connections, stuff like that would be the next things to do. Okay, enough for that. Enough of the theory. Let's look at a demo and see how the interaction with the system would actually work. And I came up with a canned video, so bear with me that this will translate or work at least. This is in the earlier phase of the prototype in summer, but still gives you an impression of how we can interact with the system.
Alexa, start Imprise's Message Hub.
Welcome to your Message Hub.
Please read my first important message to me.
You currently have 4 messages in 3 accounts that are supposed to be important. The first message is from daycarek@gmail.com. It says, Dear Heiko, due to some sick leaves on our staff, the daycare for your daughters will be closed tomorrow, June 10th for the whole day. Please plan accordingly. Kind regards and sorry for the inconvenience, Daniela.
Please cancel all appointments on June 10th.
I will cancel 3 appointments. Are you sure?
Yes.
3 appointments for June 10th have been cancelled.
Please create an all-day event for June 10th in all of my calendars with the subject Home Office.
I have created an all-day event for June 10th in your Gmail, verse on-premises and verse in the cloud accounts.
How many important messages do I have left now?
You have 3 messages left that are considered to be important.
Please read the next important message to me.
Your next important message is from yesterday from Michael Schneider with the subject Project Kickoff Regensburg. Dear Heiko, thank you for sending back the signed project contract. We will start the project in week 28 as agreed in the last call. Can you make sure that your team brings their own laptops with Microsoft Visual Studio installed? Kind regards, Michael Schneider.
Why is this message considered to be important?
It contains a to-do and refers to an appointment in the near future.
Please forward this message to Brigitte Leitner at SIT.
I will forward this message to Bleitner at sit.de. Do you want to add a text to the forward?
Brigitte, please make sure to install 3 development laptops for the Regensburg team next week. Kind regards, Heiko. Please forward now.
I have forwarded your message.
Exit message hub.
Thank you for using the Emprises message hub.
But that's basically it, right? So that's how you would interact with the system. It gives you quite a little bit of an overview of what we can do. So we get the messages, we can react to them, we can do a lot of things with them, and we have a couple of interaction opportunities to work with the system. It's quite easy to navigate around with these skills. And that's basically concludes the presentation that I had. If there are any questions left for you guys or anything outside of there, wants to know a little bit more, just get in contact with me. I'm happy to help.
Well done, Heiko.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I thought of was with the black swans. I'm curious, kind of the work that you've been doing to figure that out, and thinking, does the system say this might be important? So somehow being able to not necessarily be sure, but to throw it into, like your secondary queue that says these are the important ones, but then here's the next important set that may or may not. I can't figure that out.
Yeah, we have a kind of severance level, so to speak, right? So that's as we learned about a little bit about the evaluation system. We came up with stuff that is really considered to be important, and you got something that's in the middle, right? So might be, and you excuse me. That's something that you can relate to if you ask the system, for example. So what else do you have, right? And it kind of comes up with stuff like that. It's like, okay,
right.
I'm not sure. There's something there's a couple of trending things in it, but it's not considered as important as of yet, but you might want to look at it. Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty impressive. Like you say, you can't catch the black swans, but
No.
you're getting like close to 90%, and you've got 3,000 users lined up ready to take on the system. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we're still learning. That's why I still call it a prototype, right? I mean, the system right now first has has to prove itself now with the amount of users and the amount of user data. And also, we start to get better in all our algorithms. The more people that come on board, the more you learn, the more the system learns, so to speak. It's not really learning. It's just like the stupid thing that saves something and things. So we're not talking about deep learning here or something like that. That's way too far. But at least you can get some ideas of how things are working and what's really what algorithms are helping you. And the goal was not really to catch these black swans, but it was to reduce the clutter that you get in your daily email by, say, 70 to 80%, and that was the ultimate goal, and that's what we're reaching for, and that's what I think we're on a good way to get this for a lot of people. So it makes working with the really important stuff a lot easier, because you're faster getting to it, and you can at least you have somebody going through the crap and sorting it out before you even lay an eye on it, and that was the idea behind it.
Very cool, Colin.
All right, well, thank you, Heiko, for an excellent presentation. Definitely a hard-fought, imminent victory, it seems like, on your part, and I'm sure people will be quite interested. And for our viewers, thanks for your time watching. Like, comment, subscribe, click the bell so you get the notifications, and keep the content flowing to you.
Right on. Bye now.
Have a good day.